Something that helps stand out from the noise when you're in that growth period is having like a format that you do every single day. That is how people come back to you. That's why they follow you.
Hey Coco, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I watched many of your videos, so finally we can talk about many things, like from predictions to what does it mean to become a full-time creator and what is happening in the streaming versus social media. There is a bunch of things to talk about, but for anyone listening, tell us a bit more about yourself, and let's also maybe follow what we usually do. It's called the map. It's just like a little framework so people can understand that, what do you do and, what do you aim to achieve? That is the mission. The achievements, so anything that you're really proud of, could be notable milestones personally or professionally. And last one, it is the purpose. So not only what you do, but why you do what you do.
I got started in entertainment marketing, kind of like on happenstance. I was just so lucky. I got into a job called Famous Birthdays. And at the time, they're like the hot pink website. And at the time, no one was talking about Gen Z or their kind of version of celebrities. And so we were kind of early in like the Musical.ly TikTok realm. And when I was there, I produced Charli D'Amelio's first ever interview. And we did one video with her that got like 40 million views. And then from there, I got kind of plucked to go over to BuzzFeed. And I was at BuzzFeed for like 3.5 years building out their TikTok team. And that was also a really great experience. And then I just started like posting TikToks about things that I would talk about at work, like marketing trend predictions. And it just really took off. I'm so lucky. I have like 1 million followers now just talking about these things. And I get to do it full time and kind of like podcast about it. Like I like to consult on brands and people. So it all goes back to my why, which is like, I just love making people feel seen and heard when they're doing cool things or they have something they're excited about.
Amazing. And, so it's also funny, just like little note when you say about Famous Birthdays, because I had Ivan Britton, founder of the podcast.
He was on...
Yeah, we're on the podcast. So if people listening can find the episode. Yeah.
Yes, I'll have to listen. I accredit Evan to teaching me everything. Like when people are like, who did you learn from? I'm like, Evan Britton. Like he is, you can just tell talking to him, I'm sure you notice, like he's just a genius with like the internet, the way that users function.
Absolutely. Yeah. Big visionary when it comes also like, to understand, who can be, right, the next big ones.
Yes.
Yeah. So what's funny just that you mentioned that.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
When I also just like, to know a bit more about, any achievements, right? Because you said, Famous Birthday, BuzzFeed, is there anything that you're like super proud of, like that time that I did that?
Yeah, I have a couple. Definitely for sure was the video that I created when I was at Famous Birthdays with Evan. And it was right when TikTok started to take off. And there was like this realm where traditional media hadn't quite caught on, but were becoming aware. And so we got an interview with Charli D'Amelio and this other influencer, Chase Hudson. They got over 40 million views at Famous Birthdays on YouTube. And I think at one point I honestly thought like they were inflating views, or like I was like, is this real? Like, how is this happening? But at the time, I think it was because Charli D'Amelio and like the Addison Rays were doing dance videos and no one really heard them talk. So having interviews was like really interesting to people. And then I would also just say I'm really proud of like the part of my job where I get to go speak at events. Like I was at Cannes Lion earlier this year, New York City Ad Week. There's this thing called Possible Miami, the first time they did it. Yeah, so I love those. Those are like really big achievements. And honestly, just like my social media that I've been able to grow from the ground up. I think like I was just at an event last night and having like people that I look up to in like the music industry or whatever come up and be like, oh, like I've, made creative decisions based on your videos. And I'm like, that's so cool. So things like that are really cool too.
Amazing, especially now with so many new events, right, happening in the industry and more like networking opportunities and so on. So I can understand why it is important also to do that like in person, because when you're like on TikTok, it's something, but then, shaking a hand of someone else in the industry, understanding each other is also quite important. So that is nice. And how was for you going from the 9 to 5, sort of like, typical job to, okay, I'm going to be a full-time creator right now?
Yeah, it was honestly like I felt like for me it was a long time coming. I think I like, my both my parents were at jobs for like 20 plus years. Like they were very just like you get a full-time job and you stick at it forever. And I think like for me, even though I had gained a good amount of momentum and a good following and like opportunities, I didn't leave my full-time job for a long time. Like I was kind of juggling both. And so that transition happened really slowly and did that on purpose. I don't always advise people like, oh, you have like a good month as a creator. Like don't quit your job though. Like wait until you know that you'll be okay for like 3 to 6 months financially if the money stops. So it was a slow transition, but I will say though, I love how much like time I have. Like I get to make my own schedule now, but I miss getting feedback. Like I miss like having a manager that could be like, okay, you're doing good on this, or like you need to like do this differently. I don't have like, I mean, I have a talent manager and a team now, but I don't have like that structure that sometimes I miss. And so I think I'm learning how to like give myself structure and surround myself with people who can kind of give me that like feedback that I was used to in like the corporate world.
That is pretty common, right? From going to a structure thing that has, hierarchies in a company and everything, and be like, I'm by myself, right? And now we have to manage my time, right?
Yeah.
Have you found any other challenges in addition to, again, these things about feedback and structure? Is there anything else that you would have liked to know before starting your career as a creator?
Honestly, like this is such a kind of like boring answer, but it's important if anyone wants to be a creator, which is just like the logistical side. Like for me, learning how to start an LLC, like learning how to do taxes as a full-time creator. Like there's just certain things that if you really want to make the jump, like you have to do the unglamorous things, like sitting inside a Chase Bank, like getting an EIN number from the state of California. Like that stuff isn't fun. But like you have to be willing to do that side.
Totally. No, I know. I was talking just the other day with someone that is doing like all the attorneys and accountant for creators. So there is a big interest, there is a big need for that. So I know how important it is on doing that. And so let's move for like from the bureaucracy, right? And then again, I have to do boring things to something more exciting. That is content, right? And you, Fide, you were like on an episode of The Skinny Confidential, and you said something about live streaming, right? How it is evolving, not only gamers anymore, but you have also others. So what do you think is happening in the live streaming? What is the future for this very important industry in many other countries that is finally getting also to that nice point in the US?
I always say with live streaming, it's more about companionship versus entertainment. Like you don't have to be skydiving and tap dancing and singing on a live. Like you don't have to do all that. People just want to be in the room with you. And so I think we're going to see more like passive live streaming where people just set their phone in the corner of the room while they're working at their office or filming a podcast. Or like one of my like weird favorite lives that I'll see every now and then is it's this random bar in Ohio. And they just like every Friday night, they like put their phone in the corner of the bar and like live stream. And I'm like, if I'm staying in that night, I'm like, oh, I feel like I went out because I watched it for 5 minutes. So I think we're going to see the rise of passive live streaming where it's not like talking to camera all the time. I think that, and I'm not a huge fan of this, but I know it's just the way TikTok is going, is these like kind of QVC like shopping lives, because like their parent company, they have a lot of success with that. And so I think they're trying to see if it'll work in the US. But yeah, I think people really just want to be in the room with someone. They don't necessarily need to be entertained. And I think we see that with the rise of like Kai Cenat, he does like live streams a lot with rappers and stuff. So
do you think that we're going overall more for a raw type of content or high quality? Because, there is so much like, I was talking about this in another episode about the Mr. Beastification. I don't know if that is how you say it, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is trying to do 1,000 cuts in 1 minute and make it very like wow all the time, while others are like, actually, you know what? Let's go back to the YouTube of 10 years ago and let's make things very raw. What do you think is going to happen? Is it 50-50, 80-20? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that like the way I see it is oftentimes two things will exist at once and like people will crave both at the same time. So as we see these more rogue passive live streamings getting popular, you're also like, I just think it just depends on like where people are consuming content. I think that on TikTok specifically outside of live streaming, we're going to see a rise of that like high quality content, especially now that they're pushing like horizontal videos where you have to like turn your phone to watch the person's video. I think TikTok wants to, I don't know for sure, but I think they want to start putting mid-roll ads on videos. So that's why they're starting to beta test like 30-minute videos that are horizontal following the YouTube model. So anyways, I think it's 50-50. I think that sometimes I'll notice in like comments that I think people think that it has to be all or nothing. They're like either live streaming or it has to be like high quality Mr. Beast. And I'm like, people will watch both of those in a given day. Like they can both. So I just think as people are just consuming more content in general, like all of these things become trendy simultaneously.
Hello! Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here to do just that. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth, from influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements to managing shipping and logistics. We have it all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to DTC brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into actionable conversions. You can find us at the influencermarketingfactory.com or just search the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google.
And still on TikTok, right? Because usually the high quality was happening before on YouTube, right? But now we're seeing even more high quality content on TikTok, right? Now we're like, edited, and there's much more going into that. So first of all, I'm curious, is there any TikToker that you follow lately that for you are like either revolutionary, like, their style, how they use the medium to tell a story? Is there anyone that we should know about?
Yes. There is one creator. Her name is Justine's Camera Roll, and she's really growing right now. And her videos are pretty high quality, but like they remind me kind of like YouTube before Mr. Beast, like people either doing vlogs or like story times. And yet she's a really phenomenal editor. And I think she also still has like her full-time job. So she's just like, she also posts series like how to edit certain videos. So if anyone wants to know like what the future of, I think, TikTok in 2024 is going to look like, I think Justine's Camera Rolls, like her videos are like right on the brink of what it's about to become.
Interesting. In addition to all these, since now, there is, on the one hand, I would say that the barrier, like to enter, especially on TikTok, it's like, it's low compared to others, but there is much more competition. The algorithm changes, it changes all the time. How do you think it's able for a creator to, break through the noise and being able to like really find something that's going to be either different or something impactful to not only go on the short term, right, and having maybe one video doing like 10 millions, but actually really realizing that they can be there for the long term?
Yeah. So anyone who's like really either starting out or they want to just change niches and they're kind of like slowing down. Number one, like don't worry about necessarily like the quality of the camera. And when you're in that growth period, worry about quantity, like getting as many videos out as you can. Like when I first started some of my most viral videos, like I filmed them just balancing my phone on like a water bottle. Like I didn't have a tripod, I didn't have a mic, nothing. Like in the beginning, if you want to break through the noise, it's all about numbers. And the reason is it's not like you might put a ton of effort into a video and be like, oh, it got 200 views, like the algorithm hates me. It's not that. How I think the algorithm functions on all platforms is that they have to like see, like you kind of have to train the algorithm. So it might take like 30 to 100 videos of you posting every day being like, hey, I make content about candles. Like, hey, I make content about candles. You have to keep making those videos over and over. And eventually on the 30th video, the algorithm's going to be like, okay, they've made 30 videos about candles. Like, I'll push them out. So it really, in the beginning, don't worry about your camera. Don't worry about that. Literally just think about training the algorithm, getting as many videos out. And also something that helps stand out from the noise when you're in that growth period is having like a format that you do every single day. that is how people come back to you. That's why they follow you, so that they can come back and watch, the next video that you're going to make the next day. So finding those formats and then knowing when it's starting to slow down in a few months and knowing when to pivot and find your next format. But yeah, it's really just numbers. In the beginning, don't worry about like quality or camera.
I do agree, especially when you have like something unique to say, people are there for the value of that, right? And also for yourself, and who cares about the quality of the camera. So, and I can see that you are, you're very prepared on all these. So you come up with like predictions and, videos about like what is the future, what the past, what is the present. So I'm very curious about also the process behind that. How do you find all the information? Like, is it newsletters, podcasts? Do you go into Discord channels and you read what creators tell to each other? I'm like, to understand what is the process, to understand things that are potentially not public yet, but you can, really find a story and tell to the others, this is what is going to happen because I'm studying this, and that.
Yeah, there's a couple ways. One is I love the website, the publication TechCrunch. I don't know. I'm sure you've heard of it. Number two is spending, like for me, I spend a lot of time on the app, but also the desktop version. So not just like, TikTok or whatever on my phone. I go on the desktop version because that's sometimes where they'll test out beta features. So I'll kind of look around at different features. Looking at, like, there was one time where TikTok videos could only be 3 minutes, and they started rolling out in the commercial music license library 8-minute songs and 9-minute songs. And I was like, I think they're about to allow for a 10-minute feature. And I actually met with someone from TikTok a few months ago when I was in New York, and they were like, you predicting that was like actually crazy because we had not, like, it was just one of those things. And so me, it's like just paying attention to the app, the interface of the app, and then also just, conversations. For me, a lot of it is like when I have meetings with certain people in the industry, you get kind of tipped off to things. And also, just like observations. I have a Discord channel for my followers, and they will often send things in the Discord being like, does anyone have this feature yet? Or I'm noticing this. So really just like communication. I always say for me, so much of it is like when I have clients, they're paying me because you have to spend so much time on these apps to understand them. And they don't have 5 hours a day to like watch Instagram reels. So they're paying me for that 5 hours where I'm observing and then reporting back. So it's such like a, like unglamorous answer, but it really is just like observing. Like I think being a good content creator is 90% listening and then only 10% creating. But so much of it is you have to take in info. So yeah, those are the kind of different sources, which is like conversations, some publications, and then just using the app.
And I'm curious to know, like, because of these reasons, like all the research that you had done, what are some of the top predictions in your opinion for the creator economy this year?
I think that we are going to see the rise of just like long form content on TikTok. Some people don't always agree with that prediction, but I call it short form fatigue, where it actually takes more brain power to scroll to a new video every 10 seconds and process a new caption, a new face, a new topic, a new dialect, a new comment section. Like that takes a lot of brain power. I actually think it's so much more enjoyable to like put on a TikTok that's like 3 minutes long and it's a topic that's interesting, and I just put my phone on the side and I listen to it while I go send an email or something like that. I love, and I really hope that TikTok starts leaning into like longer videos, like 30-minute videos. I think maybe this year we'll see TikTok put mid-roll ads on people's videos that are longer, and those people are going to start making a lot of money.
There anything else that you want to add on the either prediction or anything here on the discussion that we just...
It's like the one thing I'll add is like agreeing exactly with what you were saying, and like and I think too that's why we'll see the rise of kind of like a lean back into long form content, because I like to, I refer to it as like this is a term in psychology, and I'm not a psychologist, I just like using this in marketing context, but like object permanence, which is like if you listen to a podcast like this, you know exactly the title of the podcast, what the topic was, why you listened, what the host name is, who the guest was. But if I was like, what was the last 10 TikToks you watched on your For You page, and like recite them to me, Wouldn't know. Yeah, you wouldn't know. So I think that users, if you're a creator and you want to be memorable, make longer videos. Think of it like that. Like, people remember, you might not get as many views, but those people have more object permanence when it's a longer piece of content because it's more substantive.
Coco, how can people connect with you? Do you have any favorite places, or where should people follow you?
Yeah, I always say just like whatever people's favorite social media app is. I'm on it just at Coco Mocoe. And my podcast, I have two, Ahead of the Curve. That's where it's just me kind of solo, like talking about the marketing news of the week, and then Share Your Screen with my friend Nikki. But honestly, if you ever want to like really talk to people who love this topic as well, I have a Discord. It's linked on my Instagram, and like that's just basically a group chat of like almost 400 people. And we just talk about like marketing news, or did anyone see this feature on TikTok? And that's like probably my favorite place.
Coco, this was fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today and to share all your knowledge with us.
Yeah, thank you for the great questions. It was so well researched. I appreciate it.
Of course, amazing. This was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you next week.